Holler if you hear me, and welcome to this edition of Luke Covers, because the gift that keeps on giving, Rachel Ziegler and the impending disaster of the Snow White live-action remake, is just growing more hilarious by the day, isn't it? Because we've got more information out of that both denies something we were speculating about and hoping for that, yeah, will not come to pass, and also something else that we were wondering about that now we have the official word on. And that is, of course, two things. One, why exactly the giant delay for the film's theatrical release, and also whether or not that terrible publicly released picture of Snow White with the awful looking CGI dwarves off a Thomas Kincaid painting was the real thing, and that meant that those Starbucks baristas in all of the insufferable blue hair land whale clothes meant that they were going to get rid of them and have the seven dwarves be the only thing. Well, turns out no. Now, in new information that's been disclosed about the movie, it seems that all of everything we hear and everything we can't stand about Disney movies doing live-action remakes that shoehorn all other kinds of unnecessary subplots into the movie in order to stretch out their unbearable runtime or force in some kind of storyline to convince you that this is not just being re-gifted the same movie you saw before that was done much better decades ago. No, those seven Starbucks baristas we saw in that on-set photo when they were filming in the UK. Oh yeah, they're still a part of the story. It's just that they're not being replaced with bad CGI for bad CGI versions of the dwarves. No, they're just a separate storyline. And that where the prince would be instead is going to be involved in that story because, of course, they are using their insufferable, not even fully Hispanic lead actress Rachel Ziegler as a smokescreen for trying to get rid of the prince, instead make him some kind of more revolutionary so we can have some kind of arm the proletariat speeches being forced into the film. Because, well, you may have that Paddington sequel grow a brain and get rid of Little Miss Rachel, but it turns out Disney will go down with the sinking ship that is her entire career that was owed entirely to giving Spielberg some Weinstein casting. So now what are we going to be seeing with this film other than everything we were expecting, but even more? And what is the delay for the film? Well, the fact that they've pushed the release date back, now we've got leaked confirmation. It's a matter of them being worried about the movie being another financial failure. As if pushing the film's release date back to 2025 is going to somehow stop it from making less money today than anything that involves CNN in these past 30 years. Just saying what is the truth out there. And the truth is out there, and the truth simply is that nobody will ever go and give Disney the kind of profit margins that they grew accustomed to ever since their big renaissance on the back of movies that now they grow to despise and revise to try to make into trash, like The Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast, that brought them back to the renaissance, as I already mentioned, of what they had before, back in the 30s and 40s with the Snow White story or Pinocchio story, which Little Miss Ziegler looks at that of a story of a princess and romance and all that as weird, because she has no understanding of anything in reality. Why is it that it's always these millennials who can't simply look at a movie from before 2016 that isn't constantly reminding them of some stilted Trevor Noah monologue as something that needs to be changed and altered so that you do make it into an insufferable far-left tirade, revenge fantasy masquerading as a movie? Because we're dealing with modern Hollywood, from the modern Hollywood studios to modern Hollywood actors and screenwriters to whom fully live under the Trotskyist drivel of there is no such thing as art for art's sake, or the idea of art for art's sake is a complete crime. This is why when they look at a movie and see anybody who tries to counter-argue them of saying, why can't you just enjoy a movie as a movie, they get so apoplectic about it as complete hypocrites for every time they lazily try to masquerade or defend some garbage studio like Insomniac Games shoving all kinds of pride flag propaganda into the new Spider-Man game, only to have it all promptly removed from the United Arab Emirates release because, well, that's the kind of corporate dystopia and corporate duplicity we should always expect these days, because there is nothing to them other than double standards. The fact that they'll take a good long look at that and try and ignore it or repress that reporting because that is what their corporate masters are devoted to. Hey, our corporate masters are so financially strapped, so financially undisciplined that they actively need whatever they can to make sure that they don't make the Middle East angry at them. So we'll go and ignore everything happening with the Middle East demanding all of that pride representation being removed from Spider-Man 2. The fact that you have the terrible, god awful Chinese girl boss live action Milan being made, and the fact that Disney actively went and put a thank you, a dedication to China for letting them film in a province where there are actual prison labor camps where Muslims are getting tortured, but that's okay because those are Muslims that aren't cutting Hollywood checks these days, so it's perfectly fine to get rid of them. It's like Jordan Peele and his paranoid, narcissistic, delusional tirades that he calls movies that will go and scream all about the evils of Whitey, so long as it's white people that aren't cutting him checks to make more critical race theory propaganda passed off as movies. Basically, somebody with one of the few people that has even less intellectual honesty than Jordan Peele and even less creativity or brains than Rachel Ziegler. And at least with Jordan Peele, he had some kind of notoriety of something that actually may have had some popularity at one point or another with Mad TV, which is a lot more than you'll ever be able to say for Little Miss Ziegler or for anybody involved in this garbage production. Remember, besides the fact that we have this half Polish waste of life who can go and scream all the buzzwords she wants, she can call herself Latinx all she wants, but remember, she's half white. And also, let's not forget, we're dealing with the director of The Amazing Spider-Man 2 behind this garbage. And I can't help but notice that for all of Hollywood's grandstanding about more representation behind the camera, when it comes to this trash, they're perfectly fine with having a director so white Jordan Peele would refuse to cast him in his next movie. Almost as if they will go and select at what moments to have what type of representation and what direction at what moment. And then in other moments, they will be as hypocritical and as worthless as we expect from any major corporation these days. Maybe there's a reason why everybody out there in that same shill media that will fanatically defend and or ignore, depending on what kind of story it is, a corporate product, whether it's the new Spider-Man game or if it's a new Disney failure, will then resoundingly be actively bitter and weirdly personal about somebody who does something that doesn't absolutely praise what a new HBO garbage series or what some new Disney crap wants to see. Or if it's some rival studio making a movie that isn't fueled by ESG and it becomes successful and popular, like what Universal's currently been experiencing this year with the new Fast and Furious movie and with the new Five Nights at Freddy's movie and with the actually popular Super Mario Brothers movie, while all the other pathetic woke shills from Disney to Warner Brothers are all failing and desperately clinging to the success of Barbie at the box office while ignoring the marketing sleight of hand that went out of its way to hide all of the completely coke-fueled freakouts of feminist paranoid thought that is the film's modus operandi. Because we're dealing with a cessation of, if anybody really thought that Disney was going to deal with the negative reaction to getting rid of the dwarves, quote unquote, and think that they were actually going to replace those 7 Portland Pinkos that we saw in that onset footage with some bad CGI of dwarves, no, they would never do that. They're never changing. We have seen far too many examples of Disney being the type of people where they will die with the lie of social justice. They will go all out, to the point where you're not going to get rid of Kathleen Kennedy or Bob Iger with anything resembling something that is not the agenda, that is not living to enforce the message. At the very least, you'll get some kind of revolutionary act of them getting bought out by that angel investor who will then take Bob Iger away, and then we'll go back to Disney where they then just simply take all the woke garbage and make it more underhanded. You'll have one character who is in this production who was forced in there for representation's sake instead of having entire films dedicated to shoving representation in your face and having everything be about this imaginarily dispossessed minority group that they represent. That's all you're ever going to get from these people. That's why the more and more you see Rachel Zegler and the more and more you see Disney, the more and more you see garbage, you see any talk about this garbage Disney production, the more and more you should find it funny. The more and more you should be laughing in their face, because remember, everyone involved at the Walt Disney Company, from Bob Iger all the way down to Rachel Zegler and all the writers in between, they despise the ground you walk on simply for not being a Californian. Hollywood hates you. They despise you. They want you in those internment camps where those Muslims are in the Uyghur province in China making Nikes and Apple computers. It's perfectly okay to hate them back. Give them what it is they give you. That's right down to biblical terms, and it's not my opinion. I know I'm right. So I want to thank you for watching. Subscribe, check that you're still subscribed, and help me get to my 10,000 subscriber goal. Don't forget to help out the channel by becoming a member with the first link below, or shop at my art store with the second link below, where posters are 200, color art's 30, pen and ink art's 25, sketchbooks are 25, trading cards are 10, color art is 60, pen and ink art is 50, trading card commissions are only 20, and you can also donate my store, any denomination accepted. Even the minimum donation is appreciated because that money goes straight to me. And if you want to buy my work or commission me from outside of America, add up the prices of what you want in US dollars with another 25 US for the international shipping and handling fee, and your items will ship immediately. So until then, thank you all. Remember, help me get to 10K subs and felines. Slam it, lick it, suck it, and see you, Space Cowboy.